At the beginning of this legislative session, we sat down with Speaker of the House, Shap Smith, and Senate President Pro Tem Peter Shumlin, and we urged them to take up a marriage bill this year. And we told them, we reassured them that it would be quite easy, actually. We had more than enough votes to pass a marriage bill. We showed them a list and gave them a count, and it's true that we had ample votes to satisfy the simple majority requirement for passing a bill. We got off to a great start in the Senate. One of the highlights for me was in the Senate Judiciary Committee, a gentleman by the name of Senator Kevin Mullen, Republican from the county of Rutland, which was really the heart of the opposition organizing territory. He had voted against the Civil Union Bill as a state representative in 2000, and by all expectations, he was an obvious no vote. He listened to the testimony for a week, and at the end of the day, he kept his cards close to the vest through the process. And at the end of the day, when the votes were cast, the Senate Judiciary Committee voted in support of this bill unanimously by a 5-0 margin. After the vote, immediately after the vote, Senator Mullen exited the room briskly, apparently suppressing tears, emotion. I think many people at that moment thought, oh my gosh, Senator Mullen has just signed his political death warrant. The opposition leader went up to the microphone in front of the press and immediately announced that Senator Mullen would be target number one in the 2010 election. I think a lot of people wondered where he had come to the commitment to make that vote in the face of all of the countervailing political pressures. I'm quite sure, knowing Senator Mullen as I came to know him, that the testimony in that room alone would have done the trick. But the next morning, we got a little more insight. The Rutland Herald published a letter to the editor from his 21-year-old son, thanking him for his vote, thanking him for his courage, and, in so many words, coming out as a gay man. Senator Mullen reminds us that no amount of political pressure, no amount of scare tactics, no amount of misrepresentations about who we are and how we live our lives can stand up to the reality of lived experience of people who know us and love us and have us in their life. And I forever will admire Senator Mullen, and I hope when the next election rolls around, you'll be hearing from us, because we're certainly going to be working for him. Actually, with his help, the full Senate then turned and passed this bill by a 26-4 margin. Not only did a majority of, almost all of the Democrats vote for the bill, but a majority of the Republicans voted for the bill. As we had so confidently predicted to House and Senate leaders when we were urging them to take up the bill, it was flying through easily. It wasn't a problem. The next morning, Governor Douglas announced his intention to veto the bill, raising the bar for ultimate enactment of this law from 76 votes in the House to 100 votes in the House. And quite frankly, at that time, we didn't have those votes. That unleashed a week of intense lobbying, grassroots lobbying inside the State House, while the House Judiciary Committee conducted amazing hearings. And at the end of the day, the House voted 95-52 to pass the bill. Now, we knew that the Speaker of the House, who didn't vote on the underlying bill, was with us. That meant we were still 4 votes shy of the votes we would need to override the anticipated veto from our governor. On Friday, April 3rd, which was the day of the final House vote, House and Senate leadership and the governor hammered out a deal whereby the timetable moving forward would be accelerated to warp speed. The Senate's concurrent vote to concur in the House amendments to the bill, the governor's veto, the trip back to the Senate for an override vote, and the trip back to the House for an override vote were to take place within a 20-hour period beginning the following Monday afternoon. It's a process that normally takes several weeks. As you can imagine, that weekend was bedlam. The universe of legislators who could potentially be persuaded to change their vote in either direction was relatively small, and you can be sure that those legislators' phones were ringing off the hook, or at least I assume that's what happened, because by the end of the weekend, it appeared that most of them were off the hook. It was a dynamic process. When I went home from the State House on Friday afternoon, it appeared we had the votes. When I went home from the State House the following Monday evening, the night before the override votes, it appeared that we did not. I actually spent that evening writing the post-vote message that we distribute to the press and out on our email, and that I would deliver. The message that acknowledged the setback, that thanked our supporters and vowed to redouble our efforts and continue the fight. I still have that draft, and every time I look at it, I feel queasy. But I think it's a stunning reminder of just how easily things could look so different today. The next morning, as I was driving to the State House, I learned that by the skin of our teeth, with some shakiness around the edges, it looked like we probably did have the votes. At the same time as I was driving to the State House, the Democratic Majority Leader, Representative Floyd Neese, was driving to the State House himself. He got a call on his cell phone. His mother, whom I understood lived out of state, had unexpectedly taken ill and had been rushed to the hospital. On any other day, I don't have any doubt that Representative Neese would have turned his car directly toward the airport to get on a plane and be with his mother. But he understood that the rights of so many Vermonters, and really the call of history, hung in the balance. He continued driving to the State House. When he arrived, he started counting heads, holding hands, twisting arms, doing all the things that you can imagine needed to be done before that fateful vote. He got another call on his cell phone. His mother had died. Again, I don't have any doubt that on any other occasion, Representative Neese would have been out of there as quickly as he could be to begin the grieving process and to be with his family. But he understood just how important what we were up to was. And he stayed and he continued counting heads, holding hands, twisting arms, until the last vote was cast. Until Speaker Smith announced with his own voice cracking with emotion, himself apparently suppressing tears, that the bill had been the governor's veto had been overridden by a 100-49 margin. Representative Neese's own story is obviously unique, but the courage and integrity and commitment that he showed to the civil rights of all Vermonters really exemplifies what we saw in so many legislators in Vermont this year, 125 to be exact. And without them, as well as all the work of the great volunteers who made this happen, we wouldn't be here tonight. We have the privilege of hosting at the Vermont Freedom to Marry table House Judiciary Committee Chair, Representative Bill Lippert. And I just ask both for the amazing work that he did in his own right and as sort of a stand-in for all the great legislators who make this happen, that you give Representative Lippert a big hand. Bill, can you stand up? I don't think I've ever had actually the opportunity to address so many people at once, so I can't resist the opportunity to thank my posse for being here, all my good buddies who traveled down here, and folks from Vermont. And I want to especially thank my parents who came here from Indiana, Bob and Cindy Robinson. And I want to sorry, I didn't mean to cut off my parents' applause, that's really rude. And I most especially want to thank my sweetheart, Kim, who has really been my rock through all of this, a great sounding board, and incredibly fun to be with. Thank you, Kim. I think the music's going to start playing soon, so I just want to say, I'm so honored to be able to stand here. I think GLAAD is the most amazing organization, and I'm humbled by this honor. And thank all of you for being here. Appreciate it.